What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the StormCast, the world's best podcast. We're live on YouTube and Twitter, bringing you the latest and the greatest news going on around the world. I hope everyone is having a good week so far. As we get into today's episode, I want to give a quick sound check, make sure we sound good before we get too deep into
What's up,
things, right?
everybody?
Yep. And it sounds like we sound really good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already checked out the latest episode of the Stormcast, episode 52, we talked all about World War III is here. We'll be talking a little bit more about that today. We talked about a ex-mayor scandal, the teacher-student affairs that have been going on around the world. A lot of teachers and students getting into inappropriate relationships, it seems like these days, and the most powerful militaries. All right, so that was last week's episode. That was, or not last week, that was actually 4 weeks ago now. Okay, so episode 52 was 4 weeks ago. I missed y'all. Okay, I had a little vacation. All right, so it was a nice little break. Sometimes it's good to take a little break from things and get a sense of how much you love that thing, right? you know uh, it reminds you of how much you love it, and you get that hunger back, right? So now I'm hungry, ready to go, ready to bring you guys episodes every week. All right, so we will be going live every week on Friday from here on, for the Stormcast. All right, so tune in, hit those post notifications to get notified every time I do go live, which will be every Friday around this time. All right, so uh, give you guys a quick little update. My birthday just passed, right? Today is April 17th. My birthday was April 12th. Shout out to everybody who made my birthday a special day. For me, birthdays are never really a big thing. It's kind of just another day. But a lot of people did show me love. A lot of people came through to my house. I got some gifts. A lot of friends reached out to me. So shout out to all y'all who made my birthday special. What I did do is I actually went out and I went downtown to my favorite restaurant, Cowboys Brazilian Steakhouse. I got me some good protein, some good Brazilian steak and meats and stuff like that. Some grilled pineapple. Honorable mention is the pineapple. All right. So I had a good time. I was with family and hung out with some friends as well. So now that I am 27, I'm no longer a YN. It is definitely time for me to lock in. All right. I'm pushing 30 and I want to become the best version of myself, the best man I can be. All right. So from here on, I vow to myself to lock in, focus on my grind, my goals, my purpose, and accomplishing everything that I want to accomplish without, distractions or, letting anything set me back or, hold me back from here on. So that's what I've been working on since my birthday. Give you guys a little recovery progress. I've been ramping up on meditation. So I've been focusing a lot on meditation, trying to build that brain body connection in my spinal cord. Obviously, I have a spinal cord injury. So, a lot of, nerves and signals have been disrupted. So when I do meditate, I try to focus on that, regaining, strength, focus, feeling, and connecting with my nervous system. I've been doing a lot of lifting. I'm trying to lift every day, right? At least 5 times a week, but definitely every day, even on weekends. I've been getting it in, doing something at least, right? So if I don't lift, I'll do some resistance or I'll try to go swim. Like this weekend, I'll try to go swim. That's always good exercise right there, trying to recover. Been doing a lot of standing in my wheelchair. My wheelchair stands up, so been doing a lot of standing as well. As I said, resistance. And focusing on my diet, being consistent with my diet, eating more, getting protein in, eating a lot of protein, and just, trying to lock in with that as well. Swimming. I've been going on walks every day. Every day I try to go around my neighborhood, get some vitamin D. And that's just the best way for me to, mentally decompress as well. A lot of thoughts come up, in your mind when you go on a walk. A lot of thoughts in your head. So I like to do that every day. Go outside, go for a walk around the neighborhood, or you could say a ride, a stroll. And I've been doing a lot of boxing, trying to get a lot of bag work in. And just, I love boxing. It's so good for you. I feel so great after, and I gotta, make sure I'm ready in case anybody wants to run up on me. You know what I'm saying? I gotta stay ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? So, and most of that's all from home. I haven't even really been going to the gym or anything like that. I've been making, been feeling strong and feeling good from the home. So that just goes to show you guys, you don't need, the fanciest equipment, the fanciest gym membership. All you need is some dumbbells, maybe a punching bag or something like that. But just, drive and, a hunger inside of you to get better. You could do push-ups and sit-ups every day, and get strong and focus on that. But consistency is the biggest part. All right. So staying consistent, that's what we're doing all year. All right. So with that being said, folks, as I said, I missed you guys. Glad to be back. Shout out to everybody joining the chat. Let me know how your day is going as you join, or if you're watching the live replay, drop a W in the chat. And with that being said, we're going to jump right into the latest news that's been going on around the world. Obviously, World War III. We are in the midst of World War III right now. A lot of war going on between us, as you know, Iran, Israel, and other countries are obviously involved in other ways as well. So let's pull up our first little news article from Instagram. And before we get into our World War III coverage, our World War III continues. Let's go to my profile and shout myself out. All right. So here's my Instagram at ICMick. Just posted. As you see, I post whenever I'm going live. Keep you guys updated. All right. As you see here, I also have the StormCast Instagram. All right. So go and follow those Instagrams, ladies and gentlemen, because that is what we are most active on. And you can reach out to me best on Instagram as well. All right. So that being said, let's go back here. If we can go back, it won't. It doesn't want us to. All right, here we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. apparently has officially began a blockade of all ships entering or exiting the Strait of Hormuz. I got something in my eye here. So, the United States has begun enforcing a major naval blockade on ships linked to Iran at the Strait of Hormuz, raising global tensions and impacting critical oil trade routes. The blockade, enforced by United States Central Command starting April 13th, targets vessels entering or exiting Iranian ports across the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, while allowing passage to non-Iranian destinations, creating a controlled choke point in one of the world's most vital energy corridors. Right. So this escalation follows collapsed peace talks in Pakistan after over 21 hours, with Iran refusing nuclear concessions, leading Donald Trump to label the situation as global extortion as oil prices surged past $104 per barrel, that is, signaling possible economic ripple effects worldwide. And that is from CNBC. All right, so let's see what's going on in some of these these pages, these slides, I should say. All right, so the blockade is now active. CENTCOM began enforcing the blockade at 10 a.m. Eastern on April 13th. All ships entering or exiting Iranian ports in the Arabian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman will be confronted. Ships heading to non-Iranian ports can still pass freely. All right. So we'll talk a little bit more about what this means, globally, economically, and geopolitically. So why did this happen? So peace talks in Pakistan collapsed after 21 hours. So Iran refused to give up their nuclear program. Trump announced the blockade on Truth Social, calling Iran's strait control world extortion. Oil surged past $104 a barrel. And you have probably noticed that your gas is a lot more expensive. Well, this is why, folks. It's because, well, there is a blockade of oil that passes through a very important trade route. All right, so let's go back to the tab. What's going on? What am I doing? All right, there we are. So that's basically what's going on, folks. That's the most recent, what's going on between us and Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, there's a lot more going on, but that's just kind of an overview of why you're probably seeing, your gas price to fill up your tank, probably seen that skyrocket, right? So let's check out some of these comments. This person says, I really feel sorry for American people. Trump is literally asking for war for the whole world now. Yep. Well, and this is kind of and there's kind of a lot of people are saying there's a cold war between us and China and us and Russia as well. Because, they're not supporting us. Obviously, they support Iran, right? They're allied with Iran, Iran. So this person says, Trump has made America the laughingstock of the world. This person says, so basically, U.S. couldn't best Iran in battle and failed in diplomacy. So now they're escalating and pulling everyone into Trump's war. All right, so a couple things here on that comment. So yeah, he's right on we couldn't best Iran in battle. Obviously, Iran is a global superpower, right? And they are not going to go down easy. All right, everybody knows that at this point. Their territory or their landscape, I should say, is very hard to infiltrate on land, right? To put boots on ground. So this is going to be a difficult war. It's overall war of attrition is what it would come down to at the end of the day. And that's obviously why they don't want Iran to get nuclear weapons as well. It's because they don't want them to defend themselves or be able to, fight back other nuclear superpowers such as Israel, right? So why does Israel have, why are they allowed to have nuclear weapons, but Iran isn't, right? So gives you something to think about, and who is in control over the wars and the world, right? This person's and another thing on that comment. So they said they're now escalating and pulling everyone into Trump's war. I would not say this is Trump's war. Obviously, Trump, is it's partially his war, but it's also Israel's war, right? And that's who we're controlled by. A lot of the politicians a lot of people. It's like being a dead horse at this point, saying, how much Israel has control over our government and politicians and what goes on in our country. But, it's the truth, right? And the truth is the truth. And, it's out there. What are we going to do about it? Right? That's the question. There's a couple of solutions you can offer, don't let people into our government who have dual allegiance, to multiple countries such as Israel. That's one thing. I can think of off the top of my head. You let me know what else we could do. I'm sure there's some other things, but that's one. Right? So this person says this is not accurate whatsoever. It's not that Iran didn't want to stop their nuclear program. It's that the U.S. does not want to accept that Iranian terms to end the war. Right. So, of course, we don't want to accept the terms, right? We want to be, over there. Obviously, there's a purpose for everything, right? Whether we are extracting resources from them, after this war, the world is not going to see America any longer as, this big bad wolf superpower, right? When we can't simply go in and, like we did in Venezuela, just take their leader, right? That's not happening in Iran. We killed their leader at the very beginning of the war, and yet they still fight on, right? It's like you cut off the lizard's tail and it grows back even longer. Well, that's one of these situations, right? They just go deeper under. You bomb them, they go deeper underground. They become more radicalized, and they hate America even more, right? So it's not looking good after this war is over. Which, who knows how long this is going to take? I mean, some people project months. Others, estimate that it'll take years. This will be a long, drawn out war of resources and a lot of deaths, but we'll see. That's to be determined. So yeah, that's that for that. That's what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. We'll continue on with war talk, but this isn't the Iran-U.S. war. This is between the Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine and Russia are still fighting. A lot of people don't even think about that, but that war has been going on for, at least almost 2 years now, 3 years maybe. It's been going on for a while. So here we have, for the first time in war, drones and ground robotic systems seized in enemy positions without a single human soldier. So the future of war is already here. Ukraine says it has captured a Russian position using only drones and ground robots, with no human infantry involved and no Ukrainian losses. President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the operation on April 13th, Ukraine's Arms Makers Day, calling it the first time that the enemy position was taken entirely by unmanned platforms. Russian forces surrendered during the mission without any Ukrainian soldiers on the assault. So Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, he also said Ukraine's ground robotic systems have completed more than 22,000 frontline missions in the past 3 months, naming platforms like Ratel, MIT, Ardell, Riz, Protector, among some. For scale, Ukraine's top commander reported just 2,000 robotic missions across the previous 6 months. In December, the program has grown roughly tenfold in under a year. So robot warfare is here, folks. Robots are no longer just supporting tools in war. They're starting to carry out full missions on their own, including taking positions that would normally require soldiers on the ground. This is fundamentally a change to how wars are fought and who is sent into the line of fire. So y'all let me know your thoughts down below on this and how wild this is. Personally, this is huge, right? This is, where we're entering, robot warfare, drone warfare. We've been here for a while, but, having robots completely take over enemy positions, who's to say that can't happen to us, right? Who's to say China or, especially China, right? Because they're big on robots. They're huge, very advanced when it comes to robotics. Who's to say that they don't send a robot drone army over to fight us in the future, or so it goes a lot. It goes a long way when you think about just how scary it would be to be a soldier, during wartime, and to have a robot and a drone pull up on you in the middle of the battlefield. This comments are actually, before we get into the comments, let's see these slides. Let's check out these slides, right? And this is from Evolving AI on Instagram. Shout out to them. Let's give it some volume.
Це наші наземні роботизовані комплекси. Вперше в історії цієї війни ворожу позицію було взято виключно без...
All right, so we don't speak Ukrainian, so we're just going to pause President Zelensky right there. But what he's basically saying is that Ukraine has captured a Russian position only using aerial drones and ground robots, with defenders surrendering rather, and no Ukrainian casualties, according to President Zelensky. Right? So let's pause this. Here we have Russian soldiers surrendering when confronted by the army of unmanned vehicles. And it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to shoot at them? They're just going to blow you to pieces. Right? It's not going to be a fair fight, right? They're robots. They have no, human error. You can't go up and wrestle them, or disarm them in any way, real way, So very scary to be a soldier fighting in the front lines over there, I would assume. So here we have the Russian soldiers surrendering. All right, hands up. And here we have the robots that they're using in this war. Very scary. They look like little tanks. Yeah, and then they're unmanned. So somebody with a remote somewhere in a bunker, or somebody on a laptop somewhere in an office.
The fact that the robot was
can be controlling this, right? So we're gonna We're gonna read it, but we're gonna turn the volume off because we don't speak Russian or Ukrainian, I would assume. Let me know in the comments whether or not you speak Russian or Ukrainian. I don't think any of my viewers do. That would be cool if one of y'all did, though. This robot was able to hold the front line for 45 days. All a soldier needs to know is how to use a PS5 controller. All right. So, I would be pretty good at this. Back in my day, I was pretty good on the Xbox. Really good on the sticks, actually. Consider myself a pro gamer back in the day. So I might have a job controlling. How many of you out there are good at video games and, think you could control one of these? So here we have it. It's what it looks like in action. And just, very scary stuff. It's got a light machine gun on it. We have them talking. It looks like they're just showing the PS5 controller. He says we use everything that can be used. The simpler it is, the better. All right. Producing something unique or specialized takes too long and costs too much. Many everyday items can be repurposed for war. If someone has played games before, they can take this controller and they already know how to drive it. All right, so driving isn't difficult. Shooting isn't difficult. Any soldier can handle this. All right, so very, very scary stuff right there. That's what we've come to. Imagine that pulling up on you in the battlefield, right? Like I said, not a pretty sight. We have a tweet there from Zelensky. Let me read it. He says, the future is already on the front line and Ukraine is building it. These are our ground robotic systems. For the first time in the history of the war, an enemy position was taken exclusively by unmanned platforms, ground systems, and drones. The occupiers surrendered. and the operation was carried out without infantry and without losses on our side, right? So on the Ukrainian side. So, and then he just lists, some of the specifics on the mission there. So here we have the robot again. Looks straight out of the future, right? Very dystopian warfare. That's what's happening as we evolve. So does our weapons. Here we have more. Looks like Zelensky here in some type of command room that has weapons and things like that. Here we have the robot dog that we've shown on the podcast before, the war dog that shoots fire out, if y'all remember that episode. And so, yeah, there you have it, folks. That is some of the latest news. Before we get into our first topic here. So with that being said, our first topic we've got, actually before we get into our first topic, right? Let's read some of these comments on this robot, on the war going on between Ukraine and Russia. See what the people have to say, right? And y'all let me know your thoughts down below as well. This person says, stand with Ukraine. All right. Thank you for supporting Ukrainians. This person says, so it's not a seized position, whoever does it. All right. And this person says, funnily enough, that's a funny word, isn't it? Funnily. Funnily. If I could scroll down here. So what was it's a long comment, buddy. Why is it not letting me? All right. Funnily enough, Ukraine is now by far the most advanced army in Europe. We Europeans can learn so much from them at this point. Meanwhile, far-right European snowflakes don't understand that what is being fought in Ukraine is a proxy war against authoritarianism from the East. The least we can do is to support them financially while their men die on the battlefield. Don't kid yourselves and believe that those millions going to Ukraine would have been used in your favor otherwise. All right, so lot going on in that comment there. What I can say is that I don't want to be giving money to Ukraine, right? I don't care what's going on between them and Russia. I don't care what they're fighting over. All right, it should be America first, and we should stay out and not support them, and not give them our tax dollars, right? And I think a lot of, most people would agree with that sentiment, unless you're a warmonger and you like, to see your tax dollars go overseas for a war that doesn't benefit you. That's another thing. But for the most part, I feel like people share the same sentiment that these wars that we're supporting, whether it be Iran or Ukraine or any other foreign affair that we are supporting ourselves with, is just not what we want. That's one of the things Trump, campaigned on was, no more wars, no new wars, right? That's what he promised the people, and it just goes to show you that he is a liar and he's a politician, and he bamboozled you if you voted for him, right? And I will say I am not completely innocent in this, right? I did support him. I did, show support for him during the race between the presidential race between him and Kamala. I didn't want to see Kamala in office because of, I felt like she would be weak on foreign affairs, right? And that we would end up in a war. It turns out we ended up in a war either way, right? So whether it was Kamala or Trump, I feel like they're, it doesn't really matter who won at the end of the day. Our government is ran, controlled, and dominated by Israeli influence, right? So that's that. And so we'll move on here. Let's get into our. That was some good news going on around the world. Obviously, a lot more. We'll continue to keep you updated every week with what's going on in the in the world war that we are in. But our first topic up, we've got the largest armies ever. All right. So the size of an army often reveals how much a society was willing to sacrifice during war. Governments pulled millions of people into uniform, turning farms, factories, and entire cities into engines of mobilization. In the largest conflicts, whole generations passed through the military within a few years. World War II produced some of the biggest forces ever assembled. The Soviet Red Army mobilized more than 34 million people during the war, with roughly 13 million serving at the time. Nazi Germany called up over 18 million personnel. The United States expanded its armed forces to more than 16 million. China's National Revolutionary Army fields more than 14 million soldiers during war against Japan when it fought Japan. Many of them poorly equipped conscripts fighting under brutal conditions. And it just does not want to let me scroll. All right, so massive armies existed long before modern era as well. So the Mongol Empire built a cavalry force that swept across Eurasia and reshaped the map of the known world. The Taiping Rebellion raised enormous armies during a civil war that killed tens of millions in China. Ancient sources claim Xerxes, if you've ever seen 300, you know who Xerxes is, right? Xerxes marched more than 1 million soldiers towards Greece during the invasion that led to Thermopylae, though modern historians estimate a force closer to several hundred thousand. All right, still an amazing number there. So let's see. So here are the largest armies ever assembled. First up, we have the Soviet Red Army. The USSR mobilized over 34 million troops during World War II. At its peak, 13 million men served at once, right? So, you know, Russia just not the place to go and invade, as we've learned, and as Germany learned roughly. Definitely don't do it during the winter, right? Not smart. Not only is their terrain, just so harsh and, vast, but they have the manpower as well to defend, and they're gonna, mobilize, right? And so they're at war now, but they're on even terrain, right over in Ukraine. So they're actually on the attack rather than the defense. So next up, we have China's National Revolutionary Army. China fielded 14 million soldiers against Japan. Most fought and died in staggering numbers. Okay, there was a movie I watched on Amazon Prime. It was about the war between China and Russia, and when Japan invaded China, and it was such a good movie. I watched it with my pops one day, and that war, if I can remember the movie, but that movie was so intense, right? Pretty much detailing some of the events that went on between China and Japan, and it was gruesome, right? They were absolutely, wiping each other out, for lack of better words. They, were using not only guns but swords, tanks, planes, right? And they were just destroying each other. So, if I can remember that movie, it'll probably come to my head by the end of the episode, right? But it's on Amazon Prime. If you can watch it, I would check it out. It's a dope movie. Just can't remember the name right now. Next up, we have the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan built a force of 1 million mounted warriors, the largest cavalry army ever. Right? So shout out Genghis Khan, man. What a guy. He absolutely conquered people and lands and countries, right? And it's said that it's like 20% of Asian people carry his bloodline. So he was not only conquering people, but he was impregnating a lot of those Asian women out there as well, and spreading his seed and his bloodline, right? Which is what most men, probably strive to do, or you should anyway if you're a man. It's our driving force is to conquer, dominate. But in modern times, it's not really practical to go around and conquer people. But now we do it in a way that people don't really realize, right? Like we invade countries and take their resources, but we call we say in the name of making that country better or protecting them, right? But there's always ulterior motives, folks, always, when it comes to war. Next up, we have the Taiping Rebellion armies. Both sides mobilized millions. The Taiping Heavenly Kingdom alone raised over 1 million soldiers, right? Next, we have Nazi Germany's war mob. Germany mobilized over 18 million during World War II. Yeah. So at its peak in 1943, 11 million served across 2 continents, right? So yeah, I remember they were in Africa and Europe. And I watch a lot of World War II movies, especially detailing how Germany fought, and it's just really interesting, right? I don't know what it is about Nazi Germany and Hitler, Mr. H, top H, but just the way they conducted, how organized they were, their uniforms, apparently they were highly drug fueled on methamphetamine and a concoction of other drugs. So it's always, I still to this day, every day, if I see a new like war movie, a World War II movie, I always gotta watch it, right? Especially if it looks good, If any of y'all can recommend me any World War II movies I haven't seen yet, I'd love to, because I don't know what it is about it. It's just the power that they possessed, Germany, that is, over other countries, and the will that they asserted over other countries is just so interesting to study. Next, we have Persian army at Thermopylae. So ancient sources claim Xerxes marched over 1 million men into Greece. Right. So I don't know if this is after they killed the Spartans, right? And they, but if you've seen 300, one of my favorite movies, definitely in my top 3, along with Dumb and Dumber and 300, Dumb and Dumber, and Blade 2. Those are my top 3 movies of all time. But yeah, so if you've watched 300, you know that Xerxes, the leader of the Persians, he was a bad dude, right? He's another one of those powerful rulers who exerted his power and conquered, right? So love researching that era and time as well. Next, we have India's British-led army. This was during World War II. 2.5 million Indians volunteered, the largest all-volunteer force in history, to fight in Africa, Europe, and Southeast Asia. Wow, so that is a lot of people, and that's one thing about it is, obviously that many soldiers, the percentage of them being, good soldiers, well trained, is that is very low, the chance of that. But just the pure amount of people that you would have to fight, and it's just it's just not worth it a lot of times for countries, right? So India being the largest populated country in the world, you don't think about, how many soldiers they have, right? So the U.S. military during World War II, coming in next, or this is the last. So this is the last one on our list here. Is the U.S. military during World War II. America mobilized over 16 million personnel. Factories and farms became war machines. Right. So that's that for the largest armies ever assembled, and that'll kind of give you some context on in the future for what's going on when it comes to war, and who has what it takes to actually defend themselves and go to war with other countries, right? So this person says the U.S. military was small potatoes compared to what Soviet Russia threw at Germany during World War II, right? Yeah. This person says, now the U.S. doesn't have anywhere close to 10 million. Disgrace. We should be at 20 million active troops right now. And the thing is, we don't need that many troops, right? Not only would we have to pay all of those people, right? So not only would the budget for war be even more expensive, right? We're already trillions in debt, fighting war. But war isn't fought with boots on the ground, as we talked about. So if anything, we need less people, but more trained, highly educated soldiers that can control drones, that know how to operate robots, that know how to fly planes, and hack. A lot of warfare is cyber. Cyber warfare is a real thing. So yeah, that comment is bullocks, I would say. This person says, crazy Germany had that many loyal soldiers really puts into perspective how great they were for such a small country. Like I said, yeah, it's always interesting, researching Germany at that time. Obviously, now they're very cucked out, right? Very liberal, progressive state. After World War II, they took, I guess, a lot of moral loss, right? They had to rebuild from that, and I don't think they have nearly as strong as a force for war as they did back then. Not even close to the same morale of the Germans. Now they're all, transgender and gay, and not ready for war. Right? The men are painting their nails, and the women are, dyeing their hair blue, and that's just how it is. So let's move on to our next topic here. We have something I found interesting: the fastest objects ever created. All right, so let's explore here. All right, let's explore the fastest human-made machines ever built, from solar diving probes to supersonic land records, revealing how physics and engineering push velocity to extremes beyond imagination. So gravity assist sling spacecraft, like Parker's Solar Probe, Helios 2, Juno, Voyager 1, and New Horizons to staggering speeds, while Apollo 10 marks the fastest human travel. Hypersonic craft test atmospheric limits, and Shanghai maglev plus thrust as redefine rail and land velocity records Together, these milestones show how environment shapes speed, with vacuum enabling record-breaking acceleration and air or ground demanding control. Heat management and precision pointing toward future breakthroughs that may stretch human velocity even further. So yeah, let me check and see what's going on before we get to that. Shout out to Chandra in the chat. She says, hey, it's good to see you back in the studio. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Shout out to you in the comments, and shout out to all 3 people watching live right now. All right, so whether it's one person watching, 3 people watching, 1,000,000 people watching, I'm gonna be here every week, folks, bringing you the best podcast in the world. That's just what I want to do, and I've missed it. I missed the little break I had helped me realize, how much further I want to push this podcast. The reach that I can have, the purpose. There's a purpose for everything, and this is one of my purposes, is to spread the news, spread the word of what's going on, but also to be here and give you, the most real, perspectives on the outlooks happening in our world. So that's what we're doing. All right. So with that being said, folks, let's dive right into the fastest objects humans have ever created. First on our list is the Parker Solar Probe. The Parker Solar Probe is the fastest human-made object ever, reaching about 635,000 kilometers an hour, or 394,000 miles per hour, as it dives close to the sun. All right, so I know, obviously space has no, resistance, so you can kind of just, go, there's no limit to speed, right? Because there's no resistance. But 394,000 miles per hour is just hard to fathom, to even, as a human, to even be able to grasp how, I would love to see that in action. So yeah, that's incredible. Next up, we have the Helios 2 spacecraft. The Helios 2 probe reached roughly 252,000 kilometers an hour, or 157,000 miles per hour, in 1976, making it one of the fastest spacecraft before Parker. All right, so it seems as though a lot of these objects are going to be space related, all right? Because obviously in space you can go a lot faster. Here we have, next up, the Jupiter-bound Juno. NASA's Juno spacecraft hit speeds of around 265,000 kilometers an hour, or 165,000 miles per hour, while accelerating toward Jupiter using gravity assists. All right. Very fast. Let's see. So next we have the Voyager 1. The Voyager 1, now in interstellar space, is moving away from Earth at about 61,000 kilometers an hour, or 38,000 miles per hour, after decades of travel. Incredible there. Next, we have the Apollo 10 crew module. The Apollo 10 mission set the record for fastest crewed vehicle at 39,897 kilometers an hour, or 24,791 miles per hour, during re-entry in 1969. All right, so I think this is the crew that allegedly went to the moon. And imagine being in that craft while it's going 24,000 miles per hour. The G-force that you must feel must be incomprehensible. Next on our list is New Horizons probe. The New Horizons spacecraft launched toward Pluto at roughly 58,000 kilometers an hour, or 36,000 miles per hour. One of the fastest launches ever. All right. the New Horizons probe. Next on our list is hypersonic test vehicles. Modern experimental hypersonic craft have reached speeds above 7,000 kilometers an hour or 4,350 miles per hour inside Earth's atmosphere. And next we have the fastest train ever recorded. The Shanghai Maglev train holds the highest commercial speed record at 431 kilometers an hour or 268 miles per hour in daily operation. All right, so this was one of those bullet trains in China. Incredible. Next on our list is the fastest car ever recorded. The Thrust SSC jet car officially reached 1,228 kilometers an hour, or 763 miles per hour in 1997, becoming the first land vehicle to break the sound barrier. All right, incredible. Imagine being in a car going almost 800 miles per hour. All right, folks. So that is the fastest objects ever created. Y'all let me know which one you found most, interesting. This person says, "What about the manhole?" I don't know what does that mean. What about the manhole? This person says, "Came to the comments to see about the manhole. Was not disappointed. LOL." All right, so now I need to find what the manhole is. Because is this the manhole right here? It's at 168 likes. Let's see. Let's go to those replies for that comment. This person says, "I was about to say the same thing. It most likely burned in the atmosphere." I just opened the comments to type that. Yes, but still launching. I'm confused on what you forgot about the manhole cover. All right, so everybody's commenting about the manhole. That most likely burned up in our atmosphere. It is based on calculations of a single frame. All right, so let's ask ChatGPT. What is the manhole cover and how fast was it?
Oh, good question. So a manhole cover is basically a heavy lid that covers an opening to an underground utility vault, like for sewers or electrical systems. As for how fast it was, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Could you clarify? Are you thinking of a historical event or some kind of speed record related to it?
Yeah, I was confused on that too. But a lot of people in the comments of this Instagram post detailing the fastest objects ever are saying they forgot about the manhole cover. Do you know what that might mean?
Yeah, I think I know what they're referring to. There's this classic physics example from back in the day. During a steam explosion in a sewer, a manhole cover was blasted off with incredible speed. It basically became one of the fastest human-made objects ever recorded, like several times the speed of a bullet. So it's more of a freak event, but yeah, people do bring it up as a forgotten speed champ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right. Appreciate that. So exactly, folks. There you have it. People are just trolling in the comments as usual, doing what humans do. Trolling. Not really trolling though. Apparently, a steam explosion happened in a sewer, blasting the lid off of a manhole to a sewer, making it one of the fastest objects ever recorded. Several times faster than a bullet, that is. So there you have it, folks. The more you know, right? The more you know. Alrighty, folks. That was pretty interesting. Next up, to close our episode, let's wrap things up with one last episode. All right, so a little bit shorter of an episode today. We're getting right into it, guys. We're getting our swing back, right? We're getting our flow back. So this isn't going to be the longest episode, but it's going to be an impactful episode, packed with lots of information for you, right? So that's what we're focused on in today's episode. So we've got things from your childhood that no longer exist. All right. So we're about to bring up some nostalgia for you folks. And I love, liminal space, thinking about, transition periods, things, like looking at old abandoned malls, old, neighborhoods, old abandoned buildings, old like Blockbusters and places like stores that no longer exist, just the pure euphoria, the liminal space feeling that you feel, right? So let's jump right into it. All right, so these are things from your childhood that no longer exist, and y'all let me know which one of these things you miss the most. Right, so we have first on our list Toys R Us, right? Classic. So they operated from 1948 to 2017. Okay. The last Toys R Us was in 2017. So, wow. What a store. I don't see why they don't still have it. I guess kids are more into video games now than toys, would be my assumption. I don't even think kids ride bikes that much anymore, right? They're all inside playing Minecraft or Fortnite. But, Toys R Us was that store. You could also buy video games, but the toys, man, I used to love Toys R Us. That was such a treat. If I could go to Toys R Us, that means I had been doing really good, right? Something my parents really liked how I was behaving, right? Because that was, like Wonderland if we got to go to Toys R Us. Who remembers Toys R Us? Next on our list, Blockbuster. Okay, another classic. Blockbuster operated from 1985 to 2014, right? So Blockbuster, one of those stores you go in, you feel, that feeling of euphoria, nostalgia, just, looking at the video games, the movies, they had snacks, they had like candy. You could usually play on like one of those little machines that had the controller, so you could play like games, built-in games there as well. So yeah, I do miss Blockbuster as well. I'm showing my age here, y'all. I'm like an old man at this point. Back in my day, we had Toys R Us and Blockbuster, but it's it's what happens in life. You get older, and then things disappear, unfortunately, and all you have left is your memories of those things and how they made you feel. Right. Next on our list is Radio Shack. Radio Shack started in 1921, and the last store closed in 2017. Seems like a lot of stores closing around the 2017 era. That's right when I guess technology started peaking. I guess right, video games were huge, or peak. They still are, but that's when online gaming is really becoming a thing. So I think that's why a lot of these stores most likely closed. Next on our list is Nickelodeon Studios. Okay. Nickelodeon Studios, they operated from 1990 to 2005, right? I don't think I ever went to one of those. That sounds cool, though. All right. And, I loved Nickelodeon, watching SpongeBob and iCarly, Victorious. The Amanda Show. Who remembers the Amanda Show? That's one for you. All right. Next on our list, we have Sega. So Sega, referring to the company that created the Sega Genesis, operated from 1965 to 2001. All right. So that was a little bit before my time, right? I was born in 99. So they were kind of like ending as I was, growing up. People started transitioning to the PlayStation, the Xbox, the Wii, the portable consoles like, the PSP and Nintendo DS. But Sega apparently had its time, right? Before I got here. I hear a lot of stories of how fire the Sega Genesis was. You hear a lot in songs and stuff too, but I don't think I ever played a Sega Genesis. And that is our episode, folks. As always, the StormCast is available everywhere you find podcasts. So subscribe on YouTube, drop a 5-star review on Spotify, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Rumble. Your support on Patreon also helps us to keep going strong. All links are going to be down in the description below. So go check those out. Go follow us. Show support there. You don't have to drop me a single dime. I don't take super chats for this. I do have a Patreon if you want to support there for $5 a month. All right. You get a lot of benefits as well. But if you want, guys, just go follow us and support us that way. Drop a like on the video. We have someone in the chat who says, haha, back in my day, I get it because I'm old, LOL. Yeah, see, we're getting there, and I feel like I'm getting there now with my, turning 27, pushing 30. I don't know how old you are, Maddie, but yeah, it's crazy to, be that kid hearing the older folks say, back in my day, and talk about, what their childhood was like and all the things they had. And then now we're those people, that sound like the old heads to the newer generation. And that's just how it works. That's life, I guess. But with that being said, folks, shout out to all 5 people in the live chat right now across Instagram and Twitter. Appreciate everyone for tuning in today. We do have guests coming up. Our next episode will be with a guest for sure. So that'll drop next Friday. I don't think I'll be live. It'll be a pre-recorded episode, but make sure to be ready for that dropping next Friday. And yeah, folks, like I said, you can always support on Patreon, $5 a month. Join a like-minded group of community where you can also get behind the scenes vlogs, podcasts, and other content that I do not drop on any other platform that is exclusive to my Patreon. So go check that out if you feel inclined. And yeah, let me know what you thought of today's episode, what you thought about today's topics. If you want, any certain topics for next episode, if you saw anything, you're like, hey, I want you to cover that. Hit me up on Instagram, drop me a DM, and I'll cover it. If it seems interesting for the pod, for sure. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on today's episode, good or bad, happy or sad. How do you feel? And with that being said, folks, I want to leave you off with 2 quotes today. I want to drop 2 quotes for you to think about for your weekend, right? So the first one is, and these are both from the Stoics, okay? So the first one is, strong minds suffer without complaining, while weak minds complain without suffering. What this means is strong minds go through real pain, but don't complain about it. They handle it and keep moving. But what weak minds do is they complain, even when the struggle isn't that serious, because they're more focused on the discomfort than overcoming it. And the next quote is, one mind collapses under discomfort, interpreting everything as an attack. The other mind carries burdens in silence, viewing hardship as natural. What this means is that one mindset sees discomfort as something personal, like life is attacking them, so they break under pressure, they fold. The other mindset sees hardship as a normal part of life, so they carry it and they keep going without falling apart. All right. So how do these 2 quotes connect? Both are saying the same thing from 2 angles. Weak minds react and complain because of how they see struggle, while strong minds stay steady and push through because they understand struggle is just part of the process, right? And if you're ever accomplishing anything in life, if you ever have a goal in life that is, a valid goal that, is worth attaining, worth striving for, then there's going to be struggle involved, right? There's going to be conflict. There's going to be naysayers. There's going to be haters. There's going to be people bringing you down. There's going to be negative thoughts that you have about what you're doing. But what you have to do is understand that you have to push through, and that this struggle is only part of the process. If anything worth achieving is going to require struggle, and it's going to require a level of effort that the normal person is not willing to put in, right? And right now I'm in a process of becoming the best man, the best version of myself. I guess something clicked in me once I turned 27, which just makes me feel like, it's time for me to change. It's time for me to, elevate, and to really become the best version of myself, right? And, no longer a YN. So I can't act like one. I can't have the same, behavior, same habits as I used to have, right? If I want to become a high value individual. And that's just that's how life works. So these quotes hit different for me, especially because I've lived both sides of them. When I was lying in that hospital bed after my spinal cord injury, hearing doctors say I'd never walk again, it felt like everything was taken from me, right? That was the moment where I could have collapsed, taken it personal, and let what they said define me, and let that pain of possibly not walking again define me. But what I made in that decision I made in that moment, right? I decided I wasn't going to live like that. I stopped seeing it as life attacking me or others attacking me. And I started seeing it as something I would rise above, no matter how long it would take or how much pain it would require to overcome. I don't care how long it takes or what anyone says. I'm not letting this circumstance hold me back. That's what those quotes mean to me. It's not about whether life is hard. It's about whether you break under pressure or rise above the challenges that you will face. What do these quotes mean for you? Let me know down below. With that being said, I love you so much. Stay blessed, stay beautiful, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.